I've always stayed even keel with the postseason. I'm down 0-1 in the first round. I was down 3-1 in the finals. So I'm the last guy to ask about how you're going to feel the next couple of days.
Welcome to SI Now. I'm Robin Lundberg here with John Starks, who will be doing NBA analysis for us throughout the playoffs. Let's get right to it, John. LeBron's team lost a first-round game for the first time since 2012. He didn't seem too concerned. Should he be?
No. He's been through it, obviously. He didn't see everything that you could possibly throw at his teams. I guess he feels confident in the guys that he have, that this is like what you was talking about earlier, like a fill-out game.
Yeah, game ones in the past, historically, his teams have used as a feel-out game. But the Pacers looked fast in that game. They attacked the Cavs guards. Now, the Cavs didn't shoot it very well. They could make some lineup tweaks, like removing some of Jeff Green's minutes. But LeBron has played a ton of minutes this year.
Yeah.
He also said he didn't expect to play 44 in this game. Is that a bit of a concern? Could he actually hit a wall?
I think he can. At his age, he's 33, 34 years old, somewhere around in there.
33, yeah.
33. And, been playing 82 games for the first time in his career. He done logged a lot of minutes. I could tell out there on the court that he was a little tired. And so it could affect him as this series continued to progress throughout the series. And those games started to get longer, and he had to be on the court a little bit more.
And they're going against a young team that maybe a lot of people didn't see. And in fact, Victor Oladipo was like,
confident team.
Yeah, why are you surprised?
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people didn't see us this year when it comes to the Indiana Pacers. And Oladipo himself, sometimes a guy has a nice year and you're like, oh, this is a nice story. But it's starting to feel like this could be a real star turn for him.
I agree with you 100%. Everybody was like questioning, whether or not Paul George leaving that team is going to have a setback. Oladipo came in and has picked up the reins and just been running with it. He's just an incredible player, high-energy player. His teammates obviously believes in him. As you can see, he has the ball the majority of the time down the stretch, and he makes plays. Either he's going to score or he's going to make plays for his teammates.
Who wins the series, Cavs or Pacers?
I think the Pacers. I really do. I think the Pacers, I think they're playing with a lot of confidence. People talk about the regular season, that they beat them 3 out of 4, that it doesn't mean anything. It means a lot when you're going against LeBron, knowing that you got that confidence that you can go in there and beat them.
I think we'll know after game 2, but I'm sticking with the Cavs for now.
Okay.
John Starks has the Pacers. Meanwhile, to the Western Conference, James Harden, 44 points, looked every bit the MVP in the win over the Wolves, but Chris Paul didn't play that great. And the Rockets have a lot of guys who can hit open threes, but I wouldn't necessarily call them shooters. Yeah. Is it concerning at all that Harden had to do all this heavy lifting to get them past the Wolves in a tight one?
I don't think so. I think that was just an off game for them. I think probably their guys are a little nervous because so much pressure is put on them, that knowing that they're the favorite to come out the West at this point in time. And I just think that it was a game for Minnesota to go in and steal. And they didn't play their particular best either. But I think next game, I think those guys are going to wake up and they're going to shoot the ball a lot better.
Oh, PJ, you're not worried about Tucker at all or Ariza, any of those guys that are going to knock those shots down?
I think probably Harden took a little pressure off of them and getting that game won for them. Now they know they have to pick it up and they have to shoot the ball better, because all those shots that they was getting last night are the same shots they was getting during the regular season. They was knocking them down. So I'm not worried about Houston. If Minnesota don't go out and play that pick and roll and let Harden get down the lane like they do, then they're going to have a lot of problems, because next time he kick them out, I don't think they're going to continue to miss shots.
Took some of that pressure off Chris Paul, too, because people could be saying playoff Chris Paul, the sort of inverse of playoff Rondo, the way they talk about Rondo.
That's
now,
true.
The Golden State Warriors still probably the favorites in many people's minds, but not Draymond Green. He thought all the media was against them. He thought they were motivated with people saying, we're a championship ball club. He said, we know what it takes this time of year to win. We're primed for this. A lot of people tend to forget what we're capable of. We know. I think people were just saying they could be vulnerable with Steph out. Not that they weren't a great team. They, in my opinion, caught the worst team in the playoffs in the Spurs. Pop deserves some sort of medal for getting this team to the playoffs in the West. How impressive was that win for the Warriors?
It was very impressive, but Popovich has a chemistry problem, I think. And I think he watched Oklahoma City destroy Golden State the year that they had them down 3-1, going big and playing bully ball, and I think that's why he brought in Aldridge as well as Gasol. But those two guys, I hate to say it, but been playing soft, and they really haven't been playing up to their potential, because when you're playing against Golden State, you have to be able to pound them on the boards, and those two guys are not doing what Popovich think that they should do out there against Golden State. So unless they get going, especially without Kawhi, they're going to have problems. This may be a quick series.
Yeah, I think Golden State is able to lock down defensively against them and sort of swarm Gasol, swarm Aldridge in the post. But you mentioned...
Well, there's a physicality you have to play with, too, as you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know you know.
Yeah.
I might not know. You know. Now, you mentioned Kawhi Leonard. That's the other big story going on with this series, and it's very odd. After the game, Greg Popovich was asked about Kawhi's status.
You'll have to ask Kawhi and his group that question. You know, so far they say that he's not ready to go. So we can't do anything until that happens. Then we would have to decide what's going on from there. But that's the first, thing that has to happen.
Now, when he says "and his group," to me that's him saying the people around Kawhi are the problem. But how bad does Kawhi look here, being that he is apparently medically cleared by the Spurs and he's not even on the bench with his teammates?
It looks pretty bad, I think, because you taught to go out there no matter what and fight hard with your teammates, and for him not to be there, battling with his teammates, obviously against a great team. Yeah, it looks bad for him, but also I'm pretty sure he's in a contract year, I believe. And so he's looking to make sure that he's 100% healthy when he go, look for suitors. And so, but it's hard for me, because being a player, if I got any inkling that I can go out there and compete, I'm going to be out on the court. And for some reason, I guess his group, as Pop say, think otherwise.
Well, the reports are that he's not going to be there for the rest of the playoffs. Someone who is in the playoffs is Paul George, and he's got a new nickname, Playoff P. His teammates had some fun with that.
He just talk about playing with Playoff P finally, and just getting a chance to see him getting it going like that.
That's his name? Playoff. That's the new name?
I don't know.
I'm gonna let Russ answer that one. Playoff P.
P, when he's aggressive, man, it changed the game for us.
Now, with Playoff P in tow, are the Oklahoma City Thunder a real contender? Do they make it a three-team race in the West with the Warriors and the Rockets?
I think so. I think that the teams that they're going to face on their road possibly to a championship are teams that they can beat, and they feel like they can beat. Obviously, you have Utah at hand right now. Then you have Houston if they get past Minnesota. Then you have Golden State, in the finals possibly. And so that's going to be interesting, because there are three guys that's not afraid to go out there and put up big numbers. And it seems like when they play against a better team, they play a lot better, and their bench play a lot better. Overall, they just look like a championship-style team, but it's just when they play against what gives you pause is kind of like what you saw at the end of the game, Utah, yesterday, when they was up by like 17, 18 points. All of a sudden, you fighting to close out a game with 23 seconds left. So that kind of gives you pause about this team.
Now, the switch, we hear it a lot. You talk about LeBron and what he does when it comes playoff time. We just discussed the Warriors maybe turning it on, and now the Thunder. What exactly is the difference between the regular season and the playoffs, if you were to point to one thing?
Just the energy level and the focus, and pay attention to detail. I think those three things right there, you have to be worried as a coach, making sure that your team is locked in. And like I said, giving that example of Utah and Oklahoma City game, they was up by 17 points with 2 minutes ago, and now they fighting with 23 seconds to try to win that game. It's about staying focused throughout and closing out games. And so that's one thing you have to worry about Golden State. They know how to close out games.
Now, some people new to the playoffs, including Ben Simmons, we were talking about him before the show. I love Ben Simmons, and he was great in his debut. And I think because people followed the whole process, if you will, with the Sixers, this storyline is incredible for people to see the payoff for. Do you think that the Sixers are the story of the playoffs?
I think so. I think they are a team that's capable of beating anybody in the playoffs. I think that they got a good young duo in Embiid as well as Simmons. And then they got a good supporting cast, guys that can knock down shots, especially in today's climate where you have to be able to knock down threes. They have multiple guys that can go out and do that. And Simmons, he's just incredible. You know, even though he don't, what we talked about, doesn't have a great jump shot, he tends to make things happen out there on the court.
He's a physical beast, and he sees the game in a different way. Now, you said you think the Pacers are going to beat the Cavs and that the Sixers could beat anybody in the East. Who's your pick to win the East?
That's a good question. Toronto, I want to say Toronto.
But you can't really believe in him?
Oh, man.
Look at the struggle.
If Kyle Lowry, and obviously, especially him, you know what I mean? DeRozan have been doing his thing, but Kyle Lowry have to be able to step up and play big in big games consistently throughout the playoffs, because they have all the pieces, too, to come out the East, as well as, like I said, Philadelphia. So I'm going to hold off on that.
All right, well, we'll get to that next time. To be continued. That's a cliffhanger for the next time you join the show. One more for you real quick. We just talked about Ben Simmons, and we saw a huge playoff performance from Anthony Davis. Giannis Antetokounmpo in a tough L that they took. Which guy were you most impressed with, the new kid on the block, if you will, even if those latter guys have been around a little bit? Is it Giannis, is it Davis, or is it Simmons?
I would have to say Davis, because he has a lot of weight on his shoulders right now, knowing that he's going against a very talented team in the Portland Trail Blazers, knowing that your team is going to count on you night in and night out for everything, and he makes things go. I would have to say him. Obviously, Ben Simmons, you know, he's an incredible young player. He has Embiid coming back here soon, and Giannis. Probably Giannis and Davis, probably in the same boat if you kind of look at it, but I think Anthony Davis.
John, appreciate the time. You know, the Pelicans have actually even been better without DeMarcus Cousins.
Well, 2 full weeks into the new baseball season, and plenty of fun storylines have already developed. Let's welcome in SI senior writer Ben Reiter to discuss. And Ben, 15 games in here, plenty to talk about. Let's start with Sunday night. 44-year-old Bartolo Colon. He continued to turn back the clock season he's got so far. He took a perfect game into the 8th inning against the Astros, nevertheless. Talk about what Colon has done here. His ERA is under 1.5 over 18 innings of work. How is he doing this, and what are you seeing different from him?
I'm not sure I see anything different. I think the game around him has changed, making him more of an outlier than he ever was before, right? This game's all about velocity now. It's about, you know, getting hitters to hit up on the ball. What Bartolo Colon does is he has impeccable control. He basically only throws fastballs at 88, but he throws them wherever he wants. There's really nobody else like him throwing that way. There's certainly no one else who's 44 years old, nicknamed the Big Sexy out there. He's one of a kind. He has been for a long time, but in some ways his advantages are even greater now than they were a few years ago.
You think the Rangers already got to be thinking, when can we unload him for a prospect to a contending team down the stretch?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I think that he had trouble finding a job. So, you know, anything that the Rangers can get out of him would be a bonus. They've certainly gotten more than they bargained for so far.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about a couple teams that have gotten off to hot starts. One of them is Bartolo's former team, the New York Mets, off to a 12-2 start 2 weeks into the season. This Mets team was expected to be in the 80 to 82 win category going into the season. Right now, they're one of the best teams in baseball. Health always an issue with the Mets. Right now, they're healthy. Assuming they stay healthy, could they be the team to beat in the NL East?
I mean, that's a big assumption. They certainly could be, right? I mean, they stayed healthy in 2015, and they went all the way to the World Series. Here they are without that injury bug having bitten yet. That's clearly one key to their success. Another key is what they did this offseason. You know, like this is an offseason in which teams were very conservative on the free agent market, very conservative in adding. What Sandy Alderson did is he went out there and he added complementary pieces. He didn't necessarily make that huge expenditure on a superstar. But when you add these little pieces that your team needs, like a Jay Bruce, for instance, complementing what was obviously a strong core as long as it could stay healthy, you know, that's a playoff team. You know, there's a long way to go, but pretty good first 2 weeks.
And the bullpen, big difference.
Yeah.
Lugo, Gesellman in the bullpen, Ramos and Familia's off to a hot start as well. Mets, of course, are overperforming expectations. 2 other NL teams have been very underwhelming. The Dodgers and Nationals, both under 500 to start the season. Two teams predicted to win their divisions. When you look at LA and Washington, which team's slow start are you most concerned about?
I'm a little more concerned about LA's, to be honest. Both have some injury issues. Justin Turner's out for the Dodgers. He's coming back soon. Daniel Murphy's out for the Nationals. He's coming back soon. The fundamentals of the Dodgers are more concerning, though, right? Like the Nationals, they got Bryce Harper. They've got like a -4 run differential. That's not so bad. They'll be fine. The Dodgers, particularly in the staff outside Clayton Kershaw, nobody's hitting on that team. You have to wonder if there's some hangover from last year's October run. That division is extremely competitive with the Diamondbacks off to a great start already. The biggest payroll in the league in the Dodgers, you have to wonder, like, is this the year in which things kind of like just don't add up all year long?
And they kind of gone through little spurts like this in the past. Last year, I don't know, August, September, there was quite a lull. They end up turning around, of course. They make it to the World Series.
All they need is for Clayton Kershaw to get hurt. That seems to be when they start turning it on. So we'll pray for that.
All right, the American League, the Angels have gotten off to a hot start. 13-3 record for the Halos. Now, Shohei Ohtani has been excellent on the mound and at the plate. How surprised, Ben, are you not only with Ohtani, but the way that the Angels have jumped out early in the AL West?
I'm pretty surprised. Like, I thought Ohtani would be enough to push them into wild card contention, that missing piece perhaps to get Mike Trout that elusive first playoff victory. I didn't see them clicking on all cylinders like this. I didn't think that they would be the highest scoring offense in the league, which they are right now. I didn't think that their pitching would be as good as it has been. And it's not just Ohtani and Garrett Richards. It's guys like Nick Tropiano coming in and giving them great starts. Everything is going perfectly right now for the LA Angels. And their offseason additions have also worked very well, whether it's Zach Cozart, obviously Ohtani, all the people that Billy Epler have added to this team to complement Trout. Obviously a great start. The Astros are still clearly the favorite in the AL West. But, if you had to pick a wild card favorite right now, even over a team like the Yankees, I think it's probably the Angels.
You're right. The Angels will get a healthy dose of the Astros this season in that same division as well. Ben Reiter, thanks a lot for being with us, man.
Thanks, Red.
All right, the NFL Draft is quickly approaching with all eyes on a stockpile of quarterback prospects. Robin Lundberg recently sat down with Hall of Fame QB Joe Montana to get his take on some of the current signal callers in the NFL, starting, of course, with Tom Brady.
41 heading into next year. How much longer can we possibly expect him to continue at this level?
Well, as long as you continue not to get hit, it's a lot easier to move forward. And as long as they try to protect the quarterback, makes that progression a lot easier. Before I throw the ball, and the biggest thing is I know guy behind the camera right there is not very far away, but he can hit me still after I throw it. Now you can't touch him. It allows you not to take those big old hits that really make a difference in your play and your ability to last a long. I mean, I retired at 39. I probably, even as bad as I had, many injuries I had, I could have played another 2 years if I had one for one concussion.
But do you think it's a lot, or was a lot more difficult to sustain a career in your time than it is for a guy like Brady in his time?
Well, yeah, watch the guy taking dump Bradshaw on his head. I mean, and watch how many times you see guys get planted and compressed into the ground. Well, you don't see it as much anymore. They're trying to stop those type of hits on the quarterback, and rightly so. They got a lot of money invested, a lot more money invested in these guys than they did, back then. But hey, you keep going, stay on scholarship as long as you can.
Do you wish you played in this era?
Oh yeah, we all do. As the guys who played before me wish they played in my era, because the game keeps changing and it gets better and better for the quarterback especially. A lot more fun.
You think your numbers would look even better, and the Brady-Montana argument would be even more heated if you were playing with the same rules?
I think there are a lot of guys whose numbers, I mean, look at Marino. I mean, everybody points me in, but look at guys like Marino who were accurate, playing with guys who were 5'9", 5'10", great receivers. But look at the guys playing today, 6'2", 6'5", 6'6". Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't imagine.
Give you Julio Jones alongside Jerry Rice?
Well, yeah, not so much me, but because everybody tries to make me and Brady. But when you look at guys who played like Danny, I mean, look at the numbers Danny Marino put up. And imagine him in an offensive style now where his guys got free release and the options that they can do, and him knowing that he can stand in there and know he's not going to take that big hit. I think that his numbers would be off the chart.
Now, talking about a guy who's playing quarterback for your former team in the 49ers, that's Jimmy Garoppolo. I understand you're taking a little bit of a wait-and-see approach. Do you think he's been prematurely sort of anointed as the savior of that franchise?
Well, I mean, he's been anointed the quarterback of that franchise for sure, especially after what they're paying him. But on the other hand, he's played 5 games. Everybody's so excited in the Bay Area that he's there, and for rightly so, because he finished the year on a good note. I just wanted, 16 games. Let's let him get through some of that. And
pump the brakes on Jimmy Garoppolo a little bit.
Well, no, you don't have to pump the brakes. Just like take your foot off the gas, just pick up a little bit and let it coast for a minute, and then let him go from there. And if they add some weapons for him, yeah, he seemed to have settled into the system really well. So give him a couple more weapons on the outside, and yeah, who knows.
Now, real quick on 2 guys who are not in the league right now. One, Johnny Manziel, you referenced earlier. Do you think he'll get another chance? Is he doing everything right to try and get back into the league?
I think he's doing everything right. But again, he came from that same type of system where can he play in the pocket and can he stay in there? I don't know. And that you don't know unless you give him an opportunity to get back in and play. So whether someone will do it or not, I'm not sure, because it's, some of the stuff off the field, but I promise you, and I know who the next one you're going to say, I promise you with those guys, if they could play, they'd be playing. Because if you can play, if you can find a great quarterback to come in the league somewhere, and he's young, and I mean, that's what you're looking for. And they're not going to keep somebody out of the league, though thinking he's back on track.
So you just sort of said it. You think Colin Kaepernick is not in the NFL because of football reasons?
Well, when you look back at numbers, he played a little bit better towards the end. But in the years where he was struggling, he came from the system again, where you get used to making that read, get outside the pocket, and usually guys are open. But if anyone thought that he could actually play at that level from inside the pocket and be accurate enough, because I think that was the biggest question on him, was the accuracy part of it. I mean, at one point he was completing 40-some% of his pass, and they won't allow it in the NFL.
What about RG3? He played a similar style, and he just got signed.
RG3 was a little bit more similar, but I think he spent more time in the pocket than most of those guys that came out of that. Plus, he had a couple of years that were pretty good in the NFL. They were a decent year, especially his first year. But I guess you can point back to Colin the same way. But I think in the long run, those guys struggle only because the majority of the game is going to be played inside there for them.
There's some quarterback evaluation from a legendary quarterback, Joe Montana, who's spreading word on heart awareness, Amgen's Breakaway from Heart Disease. That's breakaway from heartdisease.com for all the information you need.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Robin, let's wrap things up in the NFL. Gronk not expected to be at the Patriots' voluntary workouts as they kick off today. Is there an issue, or is this considering retirement still?
I think the latter could be true. Maybe there was a beef with him and Belichick, but he might be considering retirement considering his injury history. Check us out, same time, same place tomorrow here on SI Now. We'll be here unlike Gronk.